Okay, so then let's just do a quick final camera check here. All right, I'm good. All right, there's Callie. And, hey, what happened to Gray?
What the hell?
What does that say? Shanghai?
Shanghai.
What does that even
Hmm.
mean?
It says something else there. What does that say at the bottom?
R?
R?
Yeah, I
I don't
don't.
get R.
What
Wait,
do you?
wait, wait.
Hey,
Are
do
the
you hear
Oompas
that?
in space? I thought it was safe.
Oh no! Oh no, they're here!
Yo
Ah!
ho, yo ho, a pirate's life for me. We extort, we pilfer, we filch and sack. Drink up, me hearties, yo ho. Maraud and embezzle and even hijack. Drink up, me hearties.
Arr! Welcome to Tales of Pirates. It's your good friend Captain Bridger. Arr! Today we'll be taking over the show and talking all about piracy and Star Citizen. Arr! Now let me introduce my good captured co-hosts, including Mr. Calithulu. Welcome, Calithulu.
Just Captain Boy Calithulu to you. Arr.
And unfortunately, Gray is in fact shanghaied. He's not going to be able to make it to us today. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tales of Citizens number 10, the pirate episode, all about pirates and piracy and all that. So Gray hopefully joining us later on today. I am Bridger. I'll be your host for today. We're glad you got a hold of the program, however you may have found it. Tell a friend or two, won't you? Now, we got a great show for you today, but let me quickly point out, do some housekeeping here. Next week, we normally wouldn't have a show because we do every other week, but in this instance, we will have a show next week because, Callie?
PAX East DFM reveal.
Yes! We are going to be there. Gray and I are going to be there. We're going to come back. We're going to give you all of the inside scoop from the Penny Arcade Expo, the special Star Citizen event that's happening there. So if you are interested, definitely tune in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is when we're going to be recording live. And then after that, we're going back to the bi-weekly schedule. So we have the 13th is next Sunday. We're skipping the 20th, and then we're going to go again on the 27th. All right? So, today is going to be our pirate show. Wahahaha. If you have any feedback, by the way, send us feedback at talesofcitizens.com. But let's go on to Life in the Verse. Callie, what have you been doing recently?
Well, let's see. I just came off of 4 straight weeks, 70, 80 hours at work. So gaming-wise, not a lot. But I did manage to fit in a little PlanetSide 2. You know I'm a fan of that. Warframe, which is a nice co-op, little third-person kind of run and gun. And once again, Evo Cron Mercenary, which if you haven't tried, give it a shot. I think there's a demo out there somewhere. Worth the download, standalone server, get used to that 6 degrees of freedom when trying to recreate the feel of what the Cartu Owl might feel with a little 6-axis motion. We'll see how it's going to go.
Awesome. I have been playing far too much Europa Universalis 4.
I've seen you
Oh,
on
man.
Steam. Oh my God, you don't sleep. I mean, I don't sleep, but you don't sleep.
It's been sucking up my time. I get like 5 hours of sleep at night instead because I'm just like, well, I've managed to unite Spain, but Morocco is insulting me. They're stealing my trade. Something must be done.
But I could marry the daughter of the Danish queen and then have, what was it? Is it the same game as, oh, drat. I'm going to pull a blank here and just bonehead this one, aren't I? One of my favorites, the same people that make it, you do this whole, like,
Hearts
build
of
a
Iron?
dynasty thing. No, building a dynasty, it's turn-based.
Not turn-based then. Paradox, mostly real-time stuff. They have the
Yes,
same
you're right,
engine.
it is. It's real-time stuff. You can, like...
Crusader Kings, Victoria
Thank
2.
you. Crusader Kings.
There you go.
Yeah, also an awesome game. If you've not checked out Paradox's stuff, oh, good lord.
They actually have a tool now that you can play a game of Crusader Kings, which takes place from like 800 to 1400. Then you can take that game and import it into Europa Universalis 4, which goes from 14-something to 18-something. Then you can take that game and import it into Victoria 2, which takes place in World War I era. So they're going. I'm waiting for them to put out like a Victoria 3 that goes into Hearts of Iron 4. And then it's just, you have all of human history down to the minutia. It's It's
Then let's go.
ridiculous.
Then have it tie right into like Anno 2050 or something. Then we go straight to Mars.
There you go. There you go. All right, so we have not a lot of stuff going on, but like you said, we've got the dogfighting. Now, you saw the dogfighting preview, right? The ones that
I've
they've been
seen
putting
both
out.
of them so far. Yeah.
So far, it's very, very interesting.
But only
I'm
about
super
3
excited.
actual seconds. Only about 3 actual seconds of dogfighting
Yeah.
footage. So
Really, it was just a big tease, is really what it was. Not a lot
it is
there.
a big tease.
But it all paid off just to see Chris Roberts sitting with all that gear going pew pew
The Oculus
pew, pew.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of Oculus, there's so much VR
Oh.
news happening recently. I heard Valve shut their product down. Their
Valve
guy.
never had a product.
Well, right. They had a program in place though.
They had a prototype and they're going to
Yeah.
build an API, but they've repeatedly said, we're not going to build a product. We're not going to build a product. But everyone heard, we're building a product. And we're going to make it Steam VR.
That's what Valve does. But it would be nice if Valve could sort of use their position to standardize the VR world. That would
was
be
the
ideal.
goal, yeah.
Because now we're going to have like 5 competing standards here. Like each game is going to have to put in special instructions and stuff for Oculus and for the other ones. And that's going to be...
Well, I mean, if you look at the other peripherals out there on the market, I mean, take something like this, for example.
Mm-hmm.
There are 100,000 of these things, and they all have their own software depending on the company, and nothing's really standardized.
But it is kind of
DirectX
standardized
provided
because it's just an axis. It's reporting a
Yeah.
number. It's reporting a number usually
Very
0
true.
through 256 or 512,
Yeah.
depending upon. So that's the
Yeah, that's
standardization
true.
of it to some degree.
Yeah.
It's the other buttons that are all not standardized, which is unfortunate. All right, so yo ho, let's dive into piracy here at Star Citizen. One of the things that I always just wondered, if I'm a pirate and I steal stuff in games like Oblivion and Skyrim, you steal stuff and like everybody knows it's stolen. Like you take a goblet from some guy's house, you walk for 5 days, you run at full speed to someplace else, and you meet some merchant and you offer it to him, and he's like, "That's stolen." Like,
Yeah.
what? How does that work?
And in a medieval world, that makes no sense whatsoever. But when you're talking about something like a technological basis, like Star Citizen obviously has, I mean, they've talked about like these real owner tags in that. Maybe it's a biometric thing. Maybe it's like a one-time pad encryption where you have to decrypt it to prove you own it. But you'll be able to tell at a glance, according to what the devs have said so far, whether or not gear is legitimately owned or was not legitimately transferred. So, unlike Oblivion or Skyrim, where I take a copper pot from one guy, go 600 miles away, and say, "Hey, buy this from me," this game has at least something of a non-immersion breaking basis in reality. For this crate of copper pots doesn't belong to you.
The crate itself is electronically tagged.
Yeah,
so you might
now,
have to
could
do
you-
something special.
Maybe there's going to be a whole mini game where you get one shot and one shot only breaking that encryption. So there should be a whole like code breakers skill you can play. That would be awesome. They've not mentioned anything about that, so don't count on it. But I think that would be really cool to have like this ability to maybe untag freight. And the more valuable that freight is, the harder it is to untag. A ship should be damn near impossible.
I'm getting a priority message from Captain Bridger. We're returning
Captain Bridger?
the cabin boy Gray to you because he didn't give us the coordinates. But it looks like
hopefully they cut off a toe or two. That's all I can say. You gotta make them work at it.
Yeah, it looks like Gray has returned to us here.
Aha!
He's
But can
popping
we
into
hear him?
existence.
Gray, speak up for me, would you?
We can't hear you, mate.
Oh, the
Hey, let's try that again. How's
There
that?
you go. There you go.
They also shanghaied my mute button.
Shanghai to mute button, huh?
We could try it out.
It's a thing.
Well, we were just talking about the immersion breaking or non-immersion breakingness of that whole theft tag on freight and on ships to tell if it's legitimately owned or not. Now, my argument is that it makes a lot more sense in this game than, say, Oblivion or Skyrim, because in Oblivion, you grab a copper pot from the lizard people of I don't know where, and you take it to the cat people of wherever the hell that is, elsewhere, I got that one right, and they know it's stolen. But here, at least, you've got this great big tagging system where you can say, hey, this was not legitimately transferred to whoever currently holds it. So it's not so immersion breaking. It makes a lot more sense, and it means that, when a pirate comes in and tries to get you to dump something, it's not as valuable to them as if they can talk you into legitimately transferring 4 tons of whatever as kind of a toll for getting through space.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
There seems to be... Oh, go ahead, Gray.
I can totally see how this would actually help with immersion when you have a system of transfer. Particularly when you're talking about the sheer amount of cargo and tonnage that a larger cargo ship could drop, say, versus how much a small pirate ship like a Cutlass could actually hold. I would imagine that it would be much more lucrative to have a mining vessel or a shipping vessel drop you the 10 or 20 tons of cargo that your people can hold legitimately as a quote-unquote toll, rather than saying, okay, drop all 90 tons of cargo and we'll see what we can do with the other 60 someday.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly goes to question, what kind of... How big of a cargo hold do pirate fleets bring along with them? Do they bring like a Banu merchantman, like hiding in the wings, waiting for the scavenge to happen?
Well, they might, and the thing is that Banu is now taking up a spot in the instance there where they're committing piracy.
Oh,
so,
no, they can be further away. They'll come in only after. They'll be at the jump gate. They're completely legitimate traders.
So they're just going to sit off somewhere and then pick this up once it's dumped. That makes sense. But then again, that also runs the risk of now your Banu gets hit by a counter-piracy group or another piracy group. I mean, they're not necessarily working together on this, so you bring bigger and bigger ships. So I would say that that's the reason why the Cutlass has the hangar space it does, and why it's been tagged the pirate ship, for fighters and that. Whereas if you have you're going to go board and actually steal it, that's where you want something along like the Caterpillar.
The Caterpillar, because it has the docking collar, right?
Docking collar and a whole lot of crew capacity, apparently.
The Cutlass does have a docking collar as well, actually.
Oh, okay.
It does.
I missed that.
For 2 men.
And the other thing that that you got to keep in mind is piracy, obviously, being very risky. You're not going to want to go after the guy who's mining, what do they call it, Vespa? The crappy, cheapest ore in the world.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to go after the guy mining that. But you want to find the most lucrative cargo that fits in the smallest space possible, because you don't want to have to bring along a Starfarer or a Banu in order to carry away your entire haul. Ideally, you're right. You just put it in the back of a Caterpillar, which is much faster and can outrun the Authority.
Mm-hmm. But then again, the Caterpillar doesn't have the 5 turrets the Merchantman has, so that thing is not necessarily a sitting duck.
It's a huge chunk of armor.
Fair enough.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's more lucrative to kind of talk your target there into dropping off and legitimately handing you cargo than it is to just blow them out of the sky as soon as you see them. And let's not even mention things like the dogfight that's going to surround a heavily escorted ship. I mean, if you have, say, 7 Hornets and 1 Cutlass, and they have 7 Hornets and 1 freighter, you aren't necessarily in a great position to, A, commit that piracy because you don't have any cargo space on you, even bringing in a Banu merchant from somewhere else, or B, to really take them on. You're going to lose a lot in that engagement. So they have to drop a whole lot more than you could hold to make it worth the cost of all those ships that you might potentially lose.
Now, where does a cargo scanner come into this? And do you think people will be able to tell that they're being scanned?
Yes, to your last question. I think having a giant EM spike will be a pretty good sign that somebody's checking you out. As for where the cargo scanner would come in, piracy, obviously, if you're sitting out trying to check a jump point and see who comes in, it would be pretty easy to tell, hey, is this a guy who's worth getting into a fight with for all his cargo, or is this somebody that we just want to try to collect a little tax on, or is this an empty ship that is bristling with guns that we just don't want to screw with?
That's true.
A Q ship, as it were.
You would probably want to make sure, if you were a pirate trying to steal somebody's cargo, that they have cargo to steal.
Fair enough, fair enough. So aside from that, I mean, I feel like there could be 2 different types of pirates. Like the one Callie's talking about, the quote-unquote smart pirates that would try to convince people to drop their most lucrative cargo or else, You got guns pointed at you, etc., etc. So that'd be more like the protection racket almost. Hey, it would be a shame if something were to happen to your beautiful ship here on your way back. Asteroids are really a big problem in this sector. I can't guarantee that nothing happens to it unless maybe you drop a little bit of your cargo. I can escort you and make sure. Okay, it's gone on. So
You're making me this much more terrified of Boston now, Bridger.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's not so bad there.
I could see that being one way to do it, but another way to do it is just blow them up and let the scavengers sort them out. Like, just come in with a caterpillar with tractor beams afterwards and just pull up all the valuable loot.
But isn't boarding them then to actually get that hull and then haul it off somewhere where you can use it freely without fear of having the advocacy step in there and really step on your neck, as it were, because you did it? I mean,
I think if you get it intact, it's more likely that they'll be able to detect it. But if you blow it to pieces, I'm just scavenging it. I don't know what happened.
Well, unless somebody sees you. I was just reading that earlier today. If somebody sees you and they're a citizen, they can report that crime. So
it's okay.
Say,
I've got an ample supply of buckets. I'll just put that on their head, and then I can steal whatever I want.
So that's Skyrim now. I see it.
All right.
Yeah.
No, but
that said, I think with the cargo scanner you mentioned earlier, one thing we'll see is you have to replace your ship's targeting computer or some of that horsepower with a cargo scanner. If it's going to take away from other things, now it becomes kind of a trade-off. I've got 7 ships here. Do I only have one cargo scanner? Because if he gets hit, we can't tell anymore. And how hard is it to replace that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Does he have to hang back? He flies in, buzzes the tower, all Iceman, and then flies away? Or what's he going to do here?
I think they mentioned that there's going to be ways that you can put, instead of putting extra armor, you put in extra, lead shielding to prevent cargo scanners from actually seeing what you have. It would be great if you could somehow create it so that it looks like you're carrying Marines or something. Like, you do not want to board this. Sir, I'm getting many life signs and weapons. Quick, I'll go the other way.
So don't board them, blast them. Yeah. Well,
and there is going to be a question, actually, of when you're talking about replacing some of your targeting scanners with that horsepower with cargo scanning and that kind of thing, if that's something you have to do. Pirates are going to have to be exceptionally good at visual targeting rather than the standard, you'll have all the bells and whistles. You may have to actually knock those maneuvering thrusters out one by one using only the power of your vision if your ship doesn't have the beef to deal with it.
So
that could be really, really high skill cap.
I wonder if the Avenger will be the ideal iron sight ship then, because that Class 1 isn't gimbaled, and it's got a big gun on there for the size of the Avenger, according to the last description of it. So if you can slap a maneuvering thruster with, say, something intended for a constellation, you might be looking pretty as far as knocking that guy around and getting him to just knock it off and stop trying to fly off.
I wonder if
the Avenger is the original police ship.
True.
So that's basically just the counterpart to a pirate. It's got to be able to board, it's got to be able to knock out thrusters, and it's got to be able to check people's cargo out.
And
it's just that
and
theoretically, the advocacy shouldn't be stealing it from you.
Yeah.
So confiscate. Big difference.
Yeah.
Carbonal in the chat, in the Twitch chat, is talking about crippling ships before you move in to demand their cargo, etc., etc. Now, do you think there's going to be something like the ion cannon of the Star Wars universe, which is just like, it magically cripples the ship? Are there going to be weapons specifically, like non-lethal, quote-unquote, weapons?
Yes and no. They've already said they're not going to have the Wing Commander-style Leech missile. Now, if you didn't play, Wing Commander 4, you fire that missile, and one hit disable whatever ship you slap with it. That won't be in. They've already said that. But they do want a gun that will aid in rapidly disabling a ship. So it might be a missile, it might be a weapon, I should say. It might be a missile, it might be a gun, but it's going to be something that will be more for disabling subsystems but not doing any actual damage, which also argues if you've got good hardening, maybe you can be immune to that gun effectively.
It's going to be some sort of EMP, and basically it'll be, I would imagine, incredibly expensive to outfit your ship to a point where you're shielded well enough that won't be a problem. Though,
Yeah.
who knows, maybe things like that Drake Herald, the information runner, will come
right.
with all of that equipment.
Yeah, I think anything that's supposed to be like a
to say.
blockade runner would be one where everything on there is based on speed and based on preventing you from being disabled, right? I think that would be a huge chunk of that.
And being disabled might be just dodging whatever's coming your way.
That's true. That's true. I
Don't
could
get caught in the
see
blast.
the way they could balance that EMP concept is that it takes a lot longer to disable something with an EMP than it does to just blow it up with a regular gun. That way, you're taking a risk by trying to disable it because you're giving your opponent time to fire back at you longer, right? That would be, I think, a good way to balance it.
That was the tack that X3 took with their ion guns. When you were being a pirate in that single-player game and you just flew in there and started strafing these freighters with the ion guns, it was far less effective against shields, and it took a whole lot more of your power. You would drain your ship's weapons batteries repeatedly to disable that freighter.
Ooh, you know what would be really interesting? Shields are basically immune to EMP or ion. They block it almost 100%. But once you get your opponent's shields down with conventional weapons, you then have to oh wait, I don't want to shoot another missile because if it goes through his shield and blows it up, then I lose all the cargo. I have to be careful. That's another risk versus reward thing that would balance it.
And they have partially confirmed that that's the case because they're saying that kinetic weapons are going to be better against shields, just outright.
Yeah.
Those are going to be what you want to use, like a missile or, a mass driver? Is that what they're using?
Yeah,
mass driver is the other one.
Would be your solution to somebody's shields. And then from there, lasers are very effective on hulls. Well, why is that? Probably because they heat them up and melt holes in it.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, you may as well just EMP and overload that particular power plant or system that you're targeting, and same basic effect, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And this would explain partially why certain ships would be harder to capture than others. They talked about the scythe being a difficult thing to deal with. It's very possible that actually disabling all the electrical systems on a scythe will be incredibly difficult without blowing it up.
Yeah. On the other hand, to board it, they've said, all you need to do is knock out its thrusters. And looking at the video we have going right here, it's got one big thruster in the back, makes sense, and just a couple of maneuvering thrusters. It's very much a straight in one line kind of ship. It probably can just turn to,
Oh, that's got 12x TR2s and two giant engines.
It's got
in the
two
back.
big
that
engines in the
pain
back.
the ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty
So
sure
that
it's
should
got
be
two.
interesting.
So next up here, we obviously know that the advocacy is going to be patrolling the inner systems. So, they're going to be taking control, trying to be the risk that pirates take in the inner system. But obviously, they're not present in the outer system. Do you expect players to patrol their own territories for pirates?
Well, of course. I mean, if there is no NPC, mind you, this is not to say there aren't NPC pirates that also have a claim on those sectors and will happily fight you. But if there are no NPC like overarching governments that are controlling or protecting an area, I fully expect players to have to pick up that slack. And if they're just not on, then someone could happily run your blockade and deliver goods where they're going. Whereas you're trying to cripple that economy so that you can get the best price on whatever planet you're stationed around. I mean, I expect blockades to be a very good economic means of making money. You blockade a planet and then you sell them at your inflated rate, the missiles or the goods or the food or whatever. You don't care about the production nodes on that world. You just care that they're giving you top dollar for the things you can give them, which are cheap elsewhere.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, I think in TL we were talking about having some fun, enforcing the law ourselves as because we're not going to be a piracy organization, but pirating from pirates isn't illegal. They have bounties on their heads. So
I'm sorry, you are bringing illegal goods through this system, and they will be confiscated.
What's illegal about corn? Well, we've declared it's illegal.
Just in this 5 by 5 kilometer area, actually, it's considered contraband. Once you leave, you're fine, but good luck getting out. So now, if that's the case, now I I've talked about this before with other TL people. I think that the concept of space being a dangerous place, so dangerous in fact that you've got to convoy up with other people and get, some military escorts, like that seems to me a lot more interesting than just everybody by themselves flying through space, going to eat dinner, coming back, autopilot still on, whatever. Like, at least if you're in a convoy, you can play that song and get on the radio and be like, break a one liner.
Well, what's that famous MMO quote? I've seen it maybe a half dozen places. I think usually on Slashdot, but it goes, MMOs are like orgasms. They're okay solo, but they're more fun in a group. So
I had not heard that.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, well, see, now I've got this out there to our 10,000 viewers. But yeah, no, it's if this game were I load up my ship and I fly off on my own and I'm just my one little merchantman out there or my freelancer or whatever else I'm flying in, and I go from one planet to another and I move a load of steel, neat. That was a fun game. But if it's I got 7 people and we have a formation and we break off, we scout, we really are working as a group, that's a much more compelling game. I mean, that's what you always wanted from Wing Commander, Privateer, the old Elite games. I mean, the ability to actually work together for a much bigger gain overall. Now, let's not say that everything's cooperative. Clearly, there are players out there that are just looking to be pirates. That's their fun part. I myself will probably enjoy some of that during the game. I'll also enjoy being a merchantman and a dogfighter. I'm well-rounded like that. But the point is that if it were all solo and you just fly from Terra to New Pittsburgh and you buy steel in New Pittsburgh, take it to Terra, get food on Terra, fly it back to New Pittsburgh, if that's fun for you, more power to you. But I'm really looking forward to the way they branched and grown this to require 7 or 8 or 10 people working together for the best, most efficient, most lucrative trading and profits there are.
Ashlyn in the chat actually points out, I can just see it, 10 ships all carrying the same cargo, moving together for safety. But then, when they get to the end, it's a race to see who gets the best price. And
that's when all those EMPs you kept in reserve.
That sounds an awful lot like the situation in a board game called Galaxy Truckers, which is they have special rules for where you fight each other mid-race. It's fun. All right, so Gray, let's talk about other ways of quote unquote illegitimately making money. I mean, you could obviously steal it from people, but there's got to be other ways to manipulate the game to your advantage.
I mean, you're talking manipulating the economy. There's plenty of ways that you could potentially say, rather than stealing something, just disrupting the flow of traffic. I'm sure there will be plenty of pirates who feel that it is their duty in life not to steal goods, but to destroy entire space lanes for the sake of driving up the price of missiles in one specific system, because those missiles are the ones that get fired at them all the time.
I really hate those. It's like in League when you ban a champion you really hate. Like, damn, I hate those friend or foe missiles. They always get me. Let's blockade the planet that makes them.
They haven't figured out how to turn off their transponder, so instead they're going to try to stop the missiles from being produced. No one said it was the easy solution, but no one ever said pirates were the smartest either, so we can go both ways here.
Well, actually, there is one, I think, very dastardly scheme. Truly a Yar pirate, where you can manipulate the economy to your advantage. Create, by owning a node in some low-security space area, some missions. And then, get those missions out there as best you can. We don't know how this system is going to work, but I hope we can do this. So I want 1,000 units of steel, and I'm willing to pay just ridiculous sums for it. And then, as the new player ships come in, you just disable them, gut them, salvage the steel, and sell it back to your own planet, fill in your own orders, and also selling off the ship hull for scrap.
Yes, that's something that I think is going to be one of the scams that may actually be possible within the game, is placing large orders so that you know the travel path of people who are coming to trade.
Right.
That's sneaky.
Yeah.
Filling orders is going to be a dangerous game. When you know what it's going to come down to, the what is it? The old adage: if it looks like too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. So That would be one. If you're a pirate org or just any org that controls space and doesn't mind engaging in piracy, where you will be reviled by everybody else, then that's a scheme that could well work. Although, me personally, I might try to hunt you down after that.
Yeah, the bounty hunting is sort of the counter to the pirates, which is player vengeance essentially. That's going to be interesting. So that brings us to how expensive is it to be a pirate? Because I have to imagine that when you're starting out, you're probably not very good at being a pirate. Like, if you read Batman Year One, he's not very good at being Batman at the very beginning. So it must be really expensive to get into a life of piracy.
Well, you got to pick your fights. I think that's the big one. I mean, if you're a solo or just a couple people and you're going after these bigger freighters that their turrets alone outgun you, I think you're in trouble.
For that matter, if you're going after big freighters where they outgun you at all, you've got some serious issues going on. There's going to be plenty of people for the first couple of months that are going to try and engage constellations as pirates and just get completely cleaned off the universe.
You mean
at all?
They're going to try and dogfight the space superiority fighter? I am chagrined and shocked, sir. If you would even say that. No,
they're going, it's a big cargo ship, and then they're going to die.
Yeah, I think maybe the best concept of killing a constellation is don't start. Or Retaliator. Maybe if you just shoot it with torpedoes from long range.
Well, not to go too far astray here, doesn't the Retaliator, I mean, minus its new size increase and it's effectively a small corvette, doesn't it sound like the bombers are more anti-cap ships, so fighters should be the anti-bomber? Or am I wrong about how that works based on the World War II model?
I think you're right to a degree that they are anti-cap ships, but there's an important thing to note about anti-cap ship weapons, and it's just that they're bigger, slower versions of normal weapons.
So you should get out of the way.
You should. But you should also not get hit with an Idris M's railgun.
No, you should not. That would be bad.
I can't wait to see that hit.
There's gonna be the first guy who, in an M50 or something, gets hit by that railgun, and it's gonna go viral.
And then calls hacker, like, fucking cheater, man! Nobody can make that shot. That's gonna be like, you're gonna see those animated GIFs on the subreddit all the time when people just like in Battlefield 4 when people get a tank shot on a helicopter at 100 or like 1,000 meters away. You're just like, I can't believe I made that. PlanetSide 2 has exactly the same thing. You go to the PlanetSide 2 subreddit, there's like 3 of them every day. Somebody posts an amazingly unlikely shot.
There are whole video compilations that'll last 10 or 15 minutes of just one dude in a tank sitting out in the middle of Indar on a cliff, firing at anything that moves, and blowing up basically every plane that comes through with one shot, one kill accuracy.
Yeah.
This will happen. And make no mistake, engaging against a constellation or against a Retaliator or something with big missile racks that are anti-capital ship will hurt a lot if you don't move correctly.
Well, you know what, though? They could probably just put smaller missiles on there, right? You don't have to have giant torpedoes on there. You could have a lot of small...
The answer is maybe. From what we've seen of the Retaliator setup that they're going with, the bays that they have there are either torpedo or apartment, but there doesn't seem to be a smaller missile rack now. There are Class 3 mounts, which is where you would put the traditional missiles on. So it'll have some of those too, but it may not have the option of trading out all that space for not torpedoes or not cargo or not living space. So we'll have to see how they end up doing the design. Maybe you can trade out those bays for like a Class 3 section to expand your Class 3 mounts or something like that.
There's also a question of how, we don't know the answer yet, how easy will it be to disable a ship with a missile or something versus actually blow it up?
Oh, you just use those ones from Star Wars. Instead of putting explosives in it, you put little bots so that when they get there, they have to go and tear it apart manually because explosives are just way too expensive, I guess.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, what happens if it's relatively easy to knock out a Cutlass's rear engines? At that point, how hard is it to hit it with a torpedo?
Once it's drifting dead in space, on engine thrusters alone, that's a good question. If torpedoes are dumbfire or they can't lock onto something as small as a Cutlass, probably difficult because you could just strafe up or strafe down, strafe left, try and avoid it. But if you're really dead in space, like the power plant itself is gone, probably easy once you line that shot up.
And I think that's going to be a big balance issue, is how easy is it to knock out engines or knock out the power plant as opposed to just destroying the whole ship.
Yeah.
Because if they want to make boarding actions a thing, knocking out the power plant has to be relatively doable.
True. But they've also said they don't want anything smaller than a constellation to really be a boarded ship. Fighters in that being disabled should be really tricky, which is one of the short of destroying it on accident. Like you could be trying to shoot every maneuvering thruster, and then you did one too many, and the whole thing just detonates.
I don't know. Given that they put a docking collar specifically on the
Cutlass.
Avenger,
Okay, and the Avenger.
They put a docking collar
and
on
on the Cutlass
Avenger?
for that matter.
And the Cutlass, yeah.
There is.
Yeah, there is.
The Avenger is a police cruiser, and they intended for it to be capable of boarding somebody's ship and taking a prisoner. There's a question of, well, if an Avenger police cruiser can board somebody, do they expect that to be like, oh, well, they're going to board somebody's Cutlass or they're going to board somebody's 300i once they disable them?
Sure.
There's a part of me that's wondered if they've decided to make that a little more central, potentially, just because the skill cap is going to end up being much, much higher if that ends up being the case.
To be able to
just from a gameplay perspective, disable rather than kill being the first thing that you do most of the time, unless you're lobbing missiles like a madman, that would really make sense from the perspective of trying to be friendly to greater diversity of gameplay. Now, what we saw in the Hornet video, I don't put too much stock in, with it blowing up the 300i and all that kind of thing, where it's just instantaneously shredded and explodes. There's a part of me that says, well, remember, yeah, probably if you lay fire into somebody's...
Yeah, it's an ad.
It was
That's
exactly
a
propaganda piece.
It's a propaganda piece. I get the feeling that, yeah, you're going to be able to blow people up relatively quick looking at the dogfighting module, but what we've been seeing on that footage is military-grade Hornets shooting at each other. That's a lot of guns.
Yeah, it is.
It's true.
I think, yeah, if you're laying into somebody with all 8 barrels or whatever the crap they have on that thing, you're probably going to blow them up pretty quick. But a little less concentrated fire, I'm wondering if there's a critical point where you can stop the power plant from functioning or give the people the opportunity to like shut down and inject because, oh God, our thing's about to go critical but it hasn't yet. Is as long as you're not overkilling. I mean, overkilling is always going to be a thing, particularly with military craft. But there's got to be a point somewhere in there where you can just blow out the engines or something when you're driving behind someone without the lasers continuing to go all the way through the ship, through the power plant, into the cockpit, and blowing the whole thing up in a Michael Bay movie.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to assign fire groups and things like that to take care of it.
True.
As opposed to just the alpha strike every time.
True.
Yeah, you gotta have some use for those switches on a SciTech, right?
That's true.
True.
That's true.
Too true.
All right, so getting back to piracy, presumably, so let's say you become a pirate and you yar har, a pirate's life for me, you steal and pillage and whatever and plunder and really bad eggs. And then you want to go back to civilized, legitimate life because being a pirate is hard and smelly. So how do you go about doing that? How do you convince the UEE, no, it's okay, I'll be a good guy now? Like, I know... How do you get your citizenship rep up? Do you take up the life of a bounty hunter in the outside of space for a while until you can get your rep up again?
Well, you'd have to be part of the Bounty Hunters Guild for that, and if they're part of the advocacy, they're not letting you in. So that may not happen.
Maybe not.
I think actually the key to this is the advocacy. Judging from the material we've read and the lore that they've put out there, they're looking for underworld contacts.
So you could become a CI, an informant. A confidential informant?
An informant or somebody whose job it is to disrupt these pirate groups. It's very possible that what the advocacy may do if you want to regain your citizenship is send you out to go kill specific people that are really hard to do, or infiltrate certain organizations that you have a good rep with because you're a pirate, and steal data, or steal these mission objectives that are PvE oriented. And that would allow you to start gaining your citizenship back. Now, I would imagine that would take quite a long while, particularly since the advocacy seems particularly harsh in many of these lore bits, particularly when they
strict,
don't like
yeah.
someone.
Well, it seems like the
yeah.
the advocacy police are they're not as controlled by the central advocacy authority as a city cop would be by the police commissioner or the police chief of his district, right? Because they're going far and away. So there's almost no way to control them under those circumstances. They're more like FBI agents that leave the home office and travel forever, you know?
Actually, a really good parallel would be Western deputies and sheriffs.
Oh,
You round up the posse;
yeah.
they're all on the frontier on their own. But I want to point out, you guys are discounting a good old-fashioned bribe. I
It's
mean,
true.
if I drop 50 million space bucks, and I'm using that for purpose just to anger people, off at my local sheriff, and he just kind of
Spaceballs, the
my
bribe.
Spaceballs 2, the search for more money. And he scrubs my record clean because I gave him 50 million spaceballs.
Well, remember, that's how you can get citizenship, by quote-unquote
Yeah.
donating to the UEE to help better it. You can buy your way into a citizenship, but
So maybe there are local governors on some of these UEE outposts that if you have a good enough underworld contact, you can go bribe them to either get you false
Get you a
documents
new
or scrub the
identity,
record
yeah.
clean, new identity, yeah. So you got some options there too. If you don't want to go out there and be the deputy informant, then maybe you can do
You
something
just
like
pay someone to
pay it.
say you were.
Yeah. So that would save you some time, but not some money. Let's be clear on that. That should cost
And-
a lot.
If I had to take a wild guess, just from a game development perspective,
Mhm.
I can't see them letting you just bribe your way up to 100%. There's
No.
got to be some sort of action that they put in with that. Otherwise, it's effectively meaningless.
I assume that they'll. I think the way we do it is what you're talking about. Like if you want to go good, or maybe you could buy an identity of some variety, but it's very flimsy. It'll get you into the
Yeah.
outer ring of UEE space, and it'll work there
Yeah.
where people don't care as much. But if you try to go into the interior UEE, they're gonna check that and go, "This is false. I know
The
this
first
is
scan
false."
gets you popped.
But if you can start
Central
building
office
up,
won't be a fan.
yeah, if you can start building up a legitimate career within that outer sector and slowly raise your citizenship level up, then you can turn that, fake ID into a real ID that has some weight behind it, so you can go deeper and deeper into central space.
They basically start overlooking anything bad you did because you did enough good stuff
Yeah.
to be the good guy.
Or
Yeah.
your new identity has so much history on it now as you've worked your way in that
That you're no longer
it's no longer,
suspicious.
it's no longer
Yeah.
suspicious. Clearly, it's legitimate. You were just born on some rock somewhere.
Oh yeah, totally.
Although this sounds more and more, frankly, and this is just my opinion, and my opinions are not necessarily reflected by Bridget or by Gray, sounds more and more like the Firefly world with the core alliance and all that versus these outlying planets they were taking over. I know you're very excited by that. I
Listen.
don't want it to seem that we're advocating that, but
If CIG orchestrates like a tighter and tighter grip of the UEE and causes a civil war where one side gets to call themselves the Browncoats, I will be so happy.
we already have the Browncoats. They're a player
I know.
organization. They started in Tabula Rasa, I think. They're out there.
The actually, there's a Firefly MMO coming up soon now.
Is there?
I heard something about it.
Yeah.
I thought it disappeared. Like they were talking about it a long time ago, and then it just came. Oh yeah, keepflying.com.
That.
Firefly Online.
Yeah. Now, as far as what we're talking about here just now with getting back into the advocacy, the cost of being a pirate you were mentioning earlier, I mean that really is the cost right there. When you are a pirate, you are not only do you risk life and limb and ship, and those are expensive, but you have those incidental costs. Like you can only dock at these less developed worlds that are out on the rim. Or maybe if you get in really good with the Bantu or the Banu or the Xi'an, sorry, you can dock there on their core worlds and sell to them. But it looks like one of the big
The
costs is
Banu
going to
are a
be
whole
Banu.
different can of worms because you have to be planet by planet with those guys. They don't do central government.
Very true. So if you can get your rep really high with one Banu world or with the Xi'an government, you can still presumably sell after preying on UEE ships. Unless like the diplomatic ties are very strong with the UEE, in which case you'd be stuck on their outlying worlds too, which you have to assume don't command the best prices. I mean, just like Kansas didn't command, during the great push to the west in U.S. history, Kansas didn't command the great prices that you could find in New York for the same good. Now, that's assuming it's like a real world thing. I mean, we'll find out what the actual game is like. Maybe outposts are actually the most lucrative spots to dock at. But that would be one of the costs, is whatever you're doing will not get the same value for goods.
There's also the additional cost that anywhere that you can sell pirated goods is dangerous.
Yes.
So if you're a pirate, and you like pirating, turns out there are other pirates who also like pirating, and they will pirate your pirating. So you may be on approach to a Banu planet because, hey, lawless-ish space, they're kind of okay with that. And, 3 Banu and a merchantman come flying up to beat the crap out of you. It may be a whole lot harder to sell stolen goods solely because of where you have to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of going, I read through. Have you guys read A Human Perspective?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Holy crap, that was creepy as fuck, dude. That was so creepy. They were like making. I don't want to give it away, but Jesus, it was. I thought that okay, so what actually is happening is what I thought was happening, but I discounted it because it would be crazy for that to happen, and then it happened. Okay, so the thing is, I was stuck at work with nothing to do and just my cell phone. So I read through like a gazillion of these. I read through the Human Perspective and A Separate Law. And I'm almost done with all of the series that are on the Comlink. But if you haven't read them, guys, it is so good. They've got some great writers in there. And I want I want more. I'm burning for more Kid Crimson.
The latest one with this reporter is amazing.
I haven't finished that one. It's not listed in the series yet. That's interesting.
Well, it's still going.
Yeah,
they've got 10 parts and it's still going. But I've been very
it is an
amazing
take on outer system piracy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should have read that.
The interaction of that with legitimate UEE.
Well, that's not a legitimate UEE government, though.
No. But the reporter is legitimate.
She's part
of
that.
And the companies that are being preyed on are legitimate. And it starts asking questions about, well, did those companies? I'm not going to spoil anything. Are these companies, perpetrating insurance fraud? Is that what's going on to start?
That
piracy
is right
doesn't mean that people immediately think, oh, you're an evil pirate. They may think that you're hired by somebody to perpetrate insurance fraud.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a simple explanation, which is half the fun of it, right?
Absolutely. Unless
it's the Vandal.
That is a simple explanation.
Yeah.
The Vandal. That's this game's version of a wizard did it. The Vandal did it.
Yes.
It's the Vandal. Why do they attack us? Because they're Vandal.
They needed metal, and the lizards know they won't mine. So.
So we were talking before about pirates pirating pirates. Do you think? Yeah. I mean, this has the potential for like honor among thieves or brotherhood among thieves to break out in the form of, hey, we're all pirates. We're all living off of these legitimate guys. Let's not bug each other and have like alliances within piracy. Or it has the potential to be like every man for himself. It's the Wild West. What the hell's happening?
Well,
I can see syndicates.
Yeah.
I can see groups that are organized and basically take a cut, mob style, of all the guys that are part of it. But if you're not part of one of those groups, I'm pretty sure they're just going to blow you out of the sky. The idea of honor among thieves with a whole bunch of people who just want to watch the verse burn. To be honest here.
Yeah, but in Eve, where there was like a very legitimate economic reason to hold these outer systems and to protect it from intruders, there were like the Banded Brothers, for example, where they were an organization dedicated to that 0-0 space, and they had very large wars to protect their territory. Based on what has been described for how the public universe is going to work, I don't keep doing that. The public universe is going to work. I don't think we're going to see anything quite like that, but who knows? We might see Banded Brothers 2 or Electric Boogaloo or whatever it's going to be that's going to hold like a bunch of these big sectors of space, and they're going to be constantly sending scouts out there to try and intercept along the so-called space lanes or jump points or whatever it is to clear out that space. But it seems like SIG has taken the approach that space is much harder to defend or to control, which when you get down to it makes a lot of sense. Space is big. I mean, we've all read Douglas Adams. We know that intro part. Space is big. It is so big, you have no idea. So as far as the Honor Among Thieves, I think so. I think we'll see, just like we're looking at some of these bounty hunter groups on the forums now, talking about how they will work with each other to pass along bounty information when it moves from areas that they're not operating in to somebody else. We'll see the same with player pirates. They will control a sector of space, and they'll let other groups know in their own sectors, if they're not actively fighting each other, that a merchant fleet is moving over there, or that the large bounty hunter groups are pushing in, something along those lines. But at the same time, as say a small pirate, or you want to be just a pirate and your whole organization does, how do you make merchants believe that you're honorable? How do you make the freighter pilot like myself, who's also dogfighter, etc.? How do you make me believe that if I drop my cargo, you're not going to shoot me anyway?
You got to build
this goes back.
Listen,
I think this goes back
you
to
know
the
my
disabling.
reputation. Yes.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, if I drop 20 tons of cargo versus just fighting to the death, I mean, maybe I don't want to risk my 7 Hornets as we're flying around, plus my merchantmen. My fleet doesn't want to risk it if we can possibly help it. But if we don't think that you will honor your word, we'll fight. That's just how that
So
goes.
here's what
Otherwise,
you do.
there's no point.
They said there's going to be a reputation system in there. After the pirate steals your stuff, he's like, "Thanks, give me a thumbs up," as he flies away.
A++ would be rated again.
Exactly. He treated me with the utmost respect as he stole all my things.
Followed his word. Only took the 4 tons he asked for. Didn't shoot me afterwards. Yeah, something like that. We might see that. You don't know. That would be really interesting use of the reputation system.
Wow. Oh, boy, that thought is great. All right, I've run out of things here to talk about with regards to piracy. Am I missing anything? What do you guys think? Any other ideas?
I want space parrots. That's all I ask for.
as a small...
They set space plant like 8 times in that flipping pole. I want space parrots. Eric, I know Wingman's Hangar probably watches. They don't. I want space parrots. Damn it.
Well, they need to have, how Hawken has their aesthetic store, their real money transaction
the
store.
Repair bots.
Has the little... Oh, no, I was thinking of Repair Bots, but they also sell the little... Oh, no, maybe I'm thinking MechWarrior Online. It's the little dashboard things.
Yeah, you got the little bobbleheads.
You could customize your cockpit with, dashboard things, like bobbleheads. I want a bobblehead of, I don't know, Kid Crimson.
Well, isn't that the space plant they've had on there? They've said that's going to be one you just stick in the dash and
I want
it
the
sits
dice
there and does its thing.
The
dice, the little fuzzy dice
dangling.
Necessary, obviously.
3 fuzzy 20-sided dice hanging from the mirror.
Truck balls for the Starfarer.
Truck balls. I've seen those.
They're actually
one
a third
time.
fuel tank on there.
It just hangs right off that back fuel prod that sticks out.
Hangs.
There you go.
Hangs. In what gravity does it hang?
You just have to make sure it's stiff string.
That's the thing. If you really want to get a physicist confused when you're in space, you ask them how it's hanging, and they go, actually, it's not. To be
Bouncy.
Perfectly honest. How's it floating? That's what you gotta do. That's how you greet people. How's it floating? You got to do it.
There is one thing about pirates that I still think is going to be interesting. Bases.
Yes, that should be interesting. I agree.
There's been a lot of talk lately about the asteroid hangar, that absolutely beautiful preview video that we got.
Yeah.
But it's clear that they intend for there to be pseudo-unlawful base space. Places where you can sit down and refuel and have a place that's yours as a pirate. Because, hey, you can't dock on planets, may as well dock on an asteroid.
There will be lawless planets, too, they've said, that are controlled by, illegal components.
I think it's like Spider, I mean. Yeah.
It isn't like one of those asteroid bases where where a pirate might set up shop. Just a planet on a smaller scale, so it's going to be an economic node with missions and everything else, but controlled by an organization. At least that's the impression I've gotten from what they've been saying about these asteroid bases and whatnot. And there are going to be some that just aren't controlled, like where our asteroid hangars start at when the public universe launches.
They have talked a little bit about there being bases you could find and fix up. It's very possible that even you could kick a pirate organization out of a base that they were using purely for their ships and refueling and all that kind of thing.
Mm.
I think there may be opportunities to have totally independent pirate bases that aren't quest hubs, so to speak. I think they're going to be incredibly expensive to maintain, but I think it may give a legitimate version of territory control to those kinds of players. Whereas lawful players could also have legitimate forms of territory control where they just sort of work around a legitimate quest hub or that kind of thing there.
Or they add their own node to it, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm.
All right. I think we may have exhausted the topic of pirates and piracy. We certainly have a lot more to discover once we actually get into the game. Reminder, next week we're going to be having post-PAX show. It's going to be great. So if you are not able to make it to the PAX East event, come tune in. We're going to be talking all about it. And anything they revealed there. Actually, do you know if they're live streaming it like they did with the hangar reveal or the SitCon one?
I think they said they probably will, but I haven't seen a confirmation on the exact time or anything yet.
So. I have the exact same answer.
Okay.
For everything I've read, they want to handle it like they have in the past, but they've given nothing about when that's actually going to take place.
Listen, having worked in venues like this, there's no guarantee that they will be able to get you any amount of bandwidth. I work in a hotel with 400 rooms. It has a 10 meg pipe into the hotel, and it can't go higher. I get 60 here in my house for $60, $70 a month. They pay $1,000 a month for 10 meg because it's business class.
Dedicated. Do they actually run fiber? Is it like a
I assume, yeah, it's from Cogent or somebody. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, the point is, the venue we're going to may not have very good internet they could provide to allow streaming to work.
But wait, isn't 4G good enough?
Yeah, you can do a crappy 720p stream on Ustream with your phone, I suppose.
That might be the option.
But if you are going to be at PAX East, Gray and I will be there. We'll be wearing our TL gear, so if you want to come find us, look for the red flame on a black shirt.
I will have a hat. I'll have a white hat.
I got an extra shirt. I'll loan it to you for the day.
Ooh, maybe you can give him this keychain from the dash here. I think that's looking pretty solid right there.
That's an old school memento.
My bad.
That's our old logo.
Can't give that one away. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you, Callie, and thank you, Gray, for helping us out today. It's time for us to say good night. We will see you next week.
Good night from Unrepentant Gaming.
Don't give a hoot. Bring up me hearties, yo ho! Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. We extort, we pilfer, we filch and sack. Drink up me hearties, yo ho! Maraud and embezzle and even hijack. Drink up me hearties, yo ho! Yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
All right. That was fun. Oh, you missed our intro, Gray. We practiced it a couple of times. We did. I used a face mask as an impromptu pirate one eye eye patch.
Bravo.
That was fun.
Yeah, I had a Corsair hat on.
He had a hat. He had a tri-corner hat.
Oh, I gotta see this hat.
Oh, here you go.
That is classic.
I've got a parakeet. What's the old saying? When you go out on Halloween and you have a parakeet only, you don't have a parrot, you say, "Yar, I'm cheapo the pirate. I couldn't afford me a parrot, so I got me a parakeet." Ha ha ha.
Had I remembered in time, I'd have grabbed that Senegal we have here and called it a pygmy space parrot.
I should have brought the bird, but the bird would fly around and then I wouldn't be able to run the board. I'd be chasing her. She'd knock over the green screen. I'd be like, "Oh crap, the whole set is falling apart."
I was just worried I had too much bird crap to deal with during the show. It might be a little excessive.
And I'm glad we finally got. I figured this out. Look, we can actually go to the cockpit without everything loading ridiculously.
Wow!
Ah, well done.
Hey, it's pretty.
Well done.
It took me like an hour of slowly putting things in one at a time and rebuilding the whole set and trying to figure out what it was. It turns out the little spinner that was in the top right window there was one too many things. Like I could have the video in the background or the video in the spinner. When it's trying to run two videos simultaneously, it takes too long to load them for the traditional fade time. So I just put the RSI website up there. Close enough. Because I've got, let's see, how many layers do I have here? I've got the actual overview here, this thing. Then you've got 1, 2, and then my image. That's 3, so 4 so far. Then I've got that as the 5. There's my webcam. So 6 is the background of my thing. And then 7 is the background of his. And 8 is the background of his. And then 9 is the actual movie in the back. So I've got 9 different layers here with various levels of transparency that it has to, on the fly, fade from one to the other. I love my i7. It's so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have done this on my i5.
You know, maybe I should give a review when I do get it. I ordered that new Razer Blade because my actual laptop, my portable one, gave out on me. Laptop. It was the same day I got an ad from Razer. So have you guys seen anything about this? Razer Blade 2014?
No.
You're
that's
like
right. Hang on.
3200.
I didn't want to go on shopping. I got freaking actual Razer blades now.
Okay. Well, there you go. So find the specs. Blade 14 up there in the corner.
There, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So but the thing is, it is a gaming laptop thinner than a dime when it's closed up.
Thinner than a dime?
Yeah. So
Jesus.
If you do a new Razer Blade Ultra Thin, follow that link and look for specs. You will be blown away. I know I was.
Let me see here. This is a Kotaku review. This one looks that's pretty
break
thin.
That.
You feel that way. I know I feel that way, but I don't see myself doing it. Because they had their old one, which is just a little bit thicker, so they've always had these very thin ones. The
Have
Pro
you
is
seen the keyboard that I use?
Well done.
This thing weighs more than like 4 of those damn things.
You're probably right. It's an expensive beast, too. Don't get me wrong. There you go.
The Razer Zone. Let's look at the actual specs here.
Here we go. So I was going to give a DFM review on this at one of our shows.
Yeah.
Because,
the world's thinnest gaming laptop now features the highest resolution.
To look at is the resolution on that monitor.
Okay, where's the damn specs? Oh, tech specs. That's what I want.
There you go.
Whoa, it scrolled way down. Okay. 3200 by 1800?
That's
Holy
right.
crap.
Not quite 4K.
And it's a capacitive multi-touch screen?
That's also right.
How much did you drop on this thing?
2200.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Or, as I call it, all the overtime I've worked for the last 4 weeks. 70 to 80 hours a pop.
There you go.
That'd do it.
It will
so
do
it's 8.1? Windows 8.1 on it?
It is. It's Windows 8.1. It uses multi-touch features, and of course with StarDock, you can drop a lot of that Windows stuff.
Than a Retina display. It's only 14 inches.
It's higher than a Retina display.
Who needs that many pixels, man? I know we're the PC master race, but seriously.
All of the pixels belong to him.
Yeah,
I guess so.
I guess they had such high demand for this that my order the first day it was available, and I got bumped from the 6th to the 10th for the order date. So they had a mass of orders for this thing. They say due to demand we had to push you out because you were at this point in line. So I'll get mine on the 10th of April. So I should be able to use it for the dogfighting module. But yeah, the size of it blew me away.
Let me see. It says size and weight. The weight is 4.4 pounds.
Yeah.
The height is 0.7 inches. Jeez.
Yeah, a dime is 0.71 inches.
It doesn't look as thinner than a dime, though, from this picture. Hang on.
It doesn't. There you go. A little YouTube action here for you.
Let's tube it up. Everybody get up.
Everybody enjoy it here.
The world's highest resolution 14-inch display. Stunning something or other. 262 pixels per inch. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's actually lower than Retina. I think Retina's 3-something.
Oh, we can take a look. I'll Google it here.
It's like we're on the internet, streaming on the internet, and asking questions.
I heard you like YouTube videos, so I put a YouTube video in your YouTube video. I wanted to see if they had a comparison shot to actually show how thin it is compared to an object.
Retina display is 144 dpi according to support.apple.com.
Oh, okay. That's less than I thought.
Yeah. So that gives you the idea of just...
They can't just say thinner than a dime and then not show it next to a dime. You can't
they've got
do
a
that.
picture on the
Here's
side
the thing.
here.
It's not the thin part of a dime. It's the dime turned
Yeah.
sideways.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's this.
It's
I
thinner.
found it.
It's
There
this
you
version of the
go.
dime,
Thinner
not
than a
that
dime.
version
Okay.
of the dime.
Now I understand.
I could not sell that at that point. You couldn't get a USB slot on there.
But when you say
This
thinner
is
than a
about
dime,
how
I
thin
think
the
you're...
screen is.
Yeah,
My
Not like
bad.
what makes the
My
screen
bad.
work. The
My
screen.
the chat is like, click on my link. I'm showing you why you're wrong. But yes, okay. So that now I see is very impressive, and also possible.
There's a
not impossible. All right.
Not impossible.
So yeah, it's an i7 in that thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, an i7 mobile version. So forever
Yeah.
that's worth.
Oh, of course.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not
I've got a-
fast, but they're saying you can run Battlefield 4 on medium specs and getting like 60 frames per second on this thing. So
That's
Not
not
bad.
terrible. What does it say the
Yeah.
graphics is here? GeForce
It's,
870?
yeah,
Is the 800
Yeah.
series even out yet?
it with this laptop.
it's
I
At a
guess
minimum.
so.
No, the GeForce 800 series is out for mobile stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You don't have the flagship cards
Huh.
yet.
A
That's the important
150
part.
watt power adapter. That's a lot. Usually you've got 60 and 90 are the
No,
two
it's
different
pulling
types.
a lot
For,
of juice. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm guessing that battery lasts about 7 minutes
Yep.
yeah.
if you're doing
Seven
full
and a
bore.
half if it's warm out.
Yeah, if you're going full bore, you're not gonna get much. But I'm guessing that you can probably tone that down a little bit when you're actually traveling.
Homeostasis on your battery, keeping itself warm for you. All right, we're gonna shut her down here. I'm gonna go eat something because I did not get to dinner while I was prepping for the show tonight because
Yeah,
pirates
That'd be a problem.
are
We're having-
poor and they don't get food. I
I'm
don't know.
gonna mow the lawn and then have delicious Indian because I'm on West Coast time, so it's still sunny and beautiful out.
Yeah, it's
Was
only
it
5:30.
You know,
85?
it's supposed to be really
85
nice in
degree day.
Boston, like 65
You know-
degrees on Thursday.
That's warmer than it is here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really nice here all winter long. And by really nice, I mean a temperature somewhere above freezing and below 60 with rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, here we've had it kind of hit and miss. I guess early part of the week when I was gone, just raining, downpour. And then when I get back, 70, 85 degrees. So really,
Damn
I'm
you,
calling the weather.
California! I hope
Yeah, I
an
planted.
earthquake happens or something.
Oh, it did actually.
did, twice.
I know.
Ago. Yeah, we had 100 and some aftershocks too. You can really feel most of those.
Did you see the Daily Show when they crucified CNN for the Flight 370 thing where they're like,
Oh, God.
it was
Oh,
hilarious. They were talking about
And
how
then
they
the
just
earthquake coverage. Oh, this is real news. Just
good job CNN, and then they go
Finally.
back to CNN, and CNN's like, could the
Still
big
on
one be
370.
coming? And they're like, no, CNN, you were so close to actually reporting news instead of speculating. And
And the worst part is, you know, the Daily Show picks on CNN as they should. But every other 24-hour news station does the same damn thing.
yes,
people
I
wonder
never
why I
watch
got
cable
out of
news
the news
anymore. The
industry.
Daily Show made it so clear that they are ridiculous. They are worthy of ridicule. That it's just
It
not worth it
happened for some
anymore.
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera is looking good to me at this point. It's horrible. All right.
Apparently,
Al
apparently
Jazeera
they're
is
a
always
solid
looking
group.
pretty good with their American
And
affiliate. They do a
BBC
really
America,
good
that's
job.
about the only one I think that is also higher quality. BBC America and NPR are the
BBC
two that
is
seem to
amazing.
have any journalistic integrity at all. But this is Tales of Citizens. I went in the dark place here. Now I'm feeling bad about humanity's future. So let's say goodnight, guys. We're going to have a Team Legacy meeting here for our Star Citizen chapter. If you're interested in joining, go to teamlegacy.net and click on the recruitment button on the left-hand side. I forgot to...
Just to be clear to anybody listening who's not TL, who's thinking of applying, we've had a couple of folks that went and applied on the RSI site. It's not the place to do it. We have an app on the Team Legacy website, then we'll let you into the RSI.
And despite today's show, we're not going to be pirates. We are not pirates.
Yar?
We're going to kill pirates. That's our... We're
Yar.
a Merc Corp. All right. I'm shutting her down. I need to go eat something.
You guys have
Thanks,
fun.
guys, for watching. Thanks, Callie. Thanks, Gray.
See you guys.